Jackson gave me the news of a planet far away. And Colonel O'Neill will assemble a team that will try to save the day. Dr. Sam has a master plan and a science attitude. And the Jaffa Teal, he's part of the deal with his trusty Goa'uld. It's just a regular day at Stargate Command, and it might be hard to understand.
Chevron 1 encoded. Chevron 2 encoded. Chevron 3 encoded. Chevron 4 encoded. Oh god, this is gonna happen. Chevron 5 encoded. Chevron 6 encoded. Chevron 7 flies. We have a stable world.
Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome. I still find myself dancing every time, like a freaking child. I love it.
It
doesn't get old.
I was cracking up at the fry box slowly coming in
From way back here.
Well, it reminds me of all things my millennial brain of a SpongeBob reference. So I don't know if I'll send it to you guys, but it's like the Krabby Patty is slowly zooming in from far away, and it's 20 solid seconds. You'll laugh, I promise.
It makes me think of 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's what it the weird baby in space. I really don't like that movie. I'm sorry for people out there that like that movie.
You're allowed opinions. You're allowed to like and dislike things. It's okay.
I can deal with a lot of slow media, but that's a really slow movie. I mean, really slow.
Is that the one with Hal or Sal or whatever?
Yeah.
See,
it basically the last 30 minutes of the movie could have just been the movie because all the stuff before that I don't care about.
I don't think I've watched it full through ever. So
because it's too slow.
Yeah. I have not. The only thing I know about it is that Anthony Hopkins took inspiration from that voice of Hal or whatever the robot's name was to do his voice as Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs. That's what he drew inspiration from.
I can see that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because it's I can't do that, Dave.
That's so I forget it was that and I don't know what other thing he combined, a British accent, because is he British? I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's a British accent meets Sal from 2001. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Sal,
Hal.
Oh, see, Sal is the assist line at work that people call when they have problems. I gotta call Sal. It stands for
Sal.
blank assist line. I'm not gonna say the first name because it's the name of where I work. So anyway.
Well, welcome back.
Welcome. I'm your co-fry, Sarah.
I'm your co-fry, Christina.
Someday Christina won't be laughing when it's her turn to be a co-fry.
Always
I'm your co-fry, Rebecca. It's been
a
one gap of a week.
Treats.
What are you doing? Oh, she's even kitty treats. Oh, it sounds
you got some ASMR stuff going on there.
It truly is crack for cats. Greenies, not sponsored.
This is way too much ADHD already in our podcast for me. 5 minutes in. This is gonna be a fun one. It's
been a hot minute since we've been doing this. We got to meet in the meantime. We met in person.
We did. We'll get to that in the fry box. The fry box, guys.
Wait, are we gonna get into the fry box?
We have to get into the fry box.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna get into the fry box.
Wait, but before that, I'm the comments. So Craig says, there's people in the comments. I want to say hi to them. So everyone's here. So hey guys.
Hello.
But I thought it was a little wordy. So Craig says, can't wait for this one. One of the episodes that stuck in my head sponge. And I thought that was being silly because stuck in your head. Because it's all in your brain. It's all about head sponge. Listen, it's been a long day for me. So y'all are gonna have that. I'm peak squirrel. I am peak squirrel moment. So we're gonna get through this, okay? Everyone just keep us focused. All right.
But yeah.
Fry box.
Oh hey, hold on. See, now I'm not ready. Now I'm ready.
Short, cause we're 3 fry short.
There it is. Welcome to the fry box.
We look so cute in that drawing. I can't get enough of that. You did such
Should
a
I
good job on
should
that.
I just make that Redbubble thing live? People want it.
Please do, so people can buy stuff. Because I want to buy that shirt, and I know I can, but
People say they want it, so I've been repping us wearing it around, so and then in
Yeah.
pictures,
We
so
actually got to see you repping
We
it
did.
around.
I know.
we did. It was so awesome. So for those who don't know, which I'm shocked you wouldn't know this, but we did make the trek to New York to go see Rebecca
They
run
did.
in the marathon, and it was the most magical weekend. It was so awesome.
It was
It
so
was.
much fun.
Magical is the right word, like from beginning to end. Well, from like the time that we ran into each other, we met up with each other. Because that whole day was great. I told my mom it was like I told Bonnie that it was like meeting your old friends for the first time. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's just like a really bizarre thing, you know? It's like, and we like fell right into it too, like
Oh,
just
yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
No,
Oh
like
God, yeah.
no awkward moment, nothing. Just like
Well, I showed up at Sarah's house at 11:30 at night and just slept at our house. So like,
I called her and I was like, I don't have any food. Like, do you want me to go to the store, like, get you something? I have zero food at my house right now. She slept on my couch with my cat. It was super
amazing.
fun.
It was fun. I was trying to think about this because I wanted to ask this because this would be good for $5. Like, what's one, like, or two peak memory moments from that weekend that like make you like that stood out? Like a funny one and like, I don't know, a sentimental one.
I've automatically got like my big one.
Well, yeah.
Besides
that.
No, there's a very specific moment within that.
Okay.
Which was coming off the Queensboro Bridge, mile 16 of my marathon. Anybody know if anybody like we were texting the whole time. We'd be like, take a walk break and text. I had to ask for a power bank for my phone because it was dying. And I was miserable. And then the Queensboro Bridge is a bitch of a thing to run across because like you're uphill for like a really long time, right? And I stopped at the top because there was this gorgeous view of the city, and I walked out and I took a picture, and then I turned around and then I finally crested over to where it was downhill. And I don't know if you guys know that song Golden Hour by Jake. It's all over TikTok right now. That song came on my playlist during this downhill, and I just started running. Like that was the fastest I ran in the whole race. Like I'm running down the bridge. I'm like doing like I'm flying sort of motions, like nobody around me. And then you swing this tight turn around at the end of the Queensboro Bridge and you go under another small bridge, and then there you guys were.
Yeah,
and it was just like
it was like peak spot. We're like in that front little corner.
I mean, there was no question. Like immediately saw you when I came around that corner. And it was just like everything together was so nice. And like I was so emotional for huge parts of that race anyway, that like everything was setting me off. Like everything was making me emotional. I guess that's 16 miles at that point. So it's gonna
be a lot. Oh,
Yeah.
It's gonna do you in. So that was my number one. That moment right there was my number one.
It was so cool to see you, like, because you could tell the minute you saw us, because you were like, it was awesome. That was super cool. The story of the power bank. So I don't know if Rebecca, have you been told the links we went through to get that power bank for you?
Just the text that I got while things were happening. So
that was all you, Christina,
all.
though. So we found this like little Starbucks Amazon cafe that like was our hub. So we waited there until we were able to like meet you at mile 16, like that area where we met you the first time. It was such a godsend. It truly was. Like we were able to sit down and like wait, and then that's when, so we were waiting there like the first part of the morning, and that's when you messaged us about the power bank. So she looked on Target.
Because my phone's gonna die. This is really bad.
Well, okay. So the only places, like, I have comfort zones like right around Columbus Circle, and I was like, okay, I know there's a Target. We went there the night before. Like, I know there's one there. I'll just look for like order pickup, see if there's one online. Like we'll start there. So sure enough, there's like one available or two available for order pickup within a 2-hour window. So I was like, okay, let me order it. Let me go there. I even asked Sarah, I was like, can you double check this address? I want to look it on the map, make sure I order it from the right one. Because I'm about to go 1.5 miles back through the crowd at the end of Central Park that's like at the finish line. So I'm about to go through that to get there. So I want to make sure. And then I'm like, I'm going to have to use my customer service voice because like it ain't going to, I can't wait 2 hours. I need them to find it. So my plan was going to go to the store. I was going to go straight to where they were and like find it and like give it to somebody that does web fulfilling and be like, I have an order, here's an order number. Can you please fill it and like use that retail magic and go. So I get there and I go to where it says they're supposed to be. I'm like, there's definitely not any right here. I was very concerned, like go to this person, like another girl comes up looking for power banks. And I'm like, I stay right there. And I finally find this guy who's like getting yelled at by this customer. And I'm like, that's the guy that's going to help me because anytime you're getting yelled at by a customer, the minute you have someone really nice right afterwards, you're going to do anything for them. So I just patiently, I was like, God, that was really patient of you. He's like, yeah. He's like, I was like, that's rough. I was like, it's probably really busy. It's really hard. He's like, yeah, oh my God.
Little thick girl.
Oh yeah.
Lay it on.
So I was like, hey, I've got a problem. I was like, I'm trying to see if you could help me. And maybe someone's already picked it and like it's just showing not fulfilled. I don't see it here, but I'm looking for this. And he's like, oh, that's weird. Okay, let me get the number. And this girl walks up and she's like, wait, I was here first. He's like, you're being rude. One moment. And so he like just looking and he's like, oh, I think I just saw, he's like, I think I saw one in the back. And I was like, oh, that's probably the one I ordered. He's like, okay, one moment. He's like, let me go find it. So everything's good. He goes back there. And then all of a sudden I get a thing saying that my order's been fulfilled. I'm like, oh, okay. But let me just wait here for him. And like, maybe it's him filling it. So he gives it to me and I was like, oh, I was like, did you already fill it? And he's like, no, this was the only one we had, but maybe upstairs, like there was a second one. So the girl was like, oh, I need that. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, let me go make sure mine's upstairs before I give you this one because I'm not going to give you this one.
Because you can't have this
because
one.
You can't have this one in case like there's an issue. So sure enough, thank God I go upstairs and I go to like the order pickup thing and they're like, oh, that's a different Target. And I was like, what? So this girl got so raging pissed at me. I didn't go into all this, Sarah, with you guys. She got so pissed at me because I was like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't have it. She's like, well, can I go at least pick up your other order at your other store? I was like, no. You cannot. I will cancel that one. My bad. And so I was like, and I'm going to leave now. And the girl was just like, bitch. I was like, no, I got to go. You cannot go pick up my order. So
you don't understand. I need this right now.
I need this and I need to go. So
my friend is dying running through Brooklyn right now. I need this.
So then like Sarah, so then it's getting close. And I was like, okay, I'm on my way back. And so I'm like running through the crowd because it is like tense.
And in the meantime, like in the time of like, oh my God, they might not have it. She's texting me saying like, can you check another Target? Can you check anywhere else? And I'm like, let me check a Dwayne Reed because now I know what that is. So like, let's check. Like, who knows if like Walgreens or whatever. It doesn't have to be a really good one. It just has to be enough to give you enough juice to like get through.
Oh,
so I was like furiously Googling away to see what was in the area, but then by the time like I found anything, you had already had it, and we needed a specific one that had like the Apple port built into it. So there were only like so many kinds that we could get.
It was so, man, that hustle. Like, you know, when you go into like adrenaline mode, I know you know, but I was like, I'm gonna get this for Rebecca if it's the last thing I do. So just need you to know it was a lot that I did.
It's so appreciated.
But no, but it was just more hysterical because like by the time I got back to Sarah and Adam, I was like sat down and they're like, you ready to go? I was like, no, I need to sit down. I was like, they're like, yeah, we're ready to go. I was like, no, we're sitting for a moment. But then it like made it so much more worth it because like seeing you and like then being able to like give it to you because I was like, we cannot disappoint Rebecca. We cannot be there without one. We cannot do this. Not an option.
I mean, you could have. But literally, I can't imagine getting through the last like 3 miles of that race without. Could not have done it. So.
Oh gosh. Okay, so
it was We
also got to meet Perez from TikTok.
We did get.
He ran into you as well.
That was crazy. Like, just
that was so cool.
Just after work, and he's like, he just happened to catch the right spot at the right time. Like,
so were you really not texting at all? Like, it literally.
No, I had not said a word to him.
I wonder if he
I-
was tracking you because you had posted. Are you friends with him on any social media? Did he know
Mm-mm.
that? Like,
Mm-mm. He
damn,
like
that is
that
wild.
surprise of his was real. And the thing was, I didn't even see him. A guy that was running beside me was like, "Hey, this guy wants you." Like, "Hey, you should look
Oh.
over there." Like, I wasn't even expecting anything.
Oh
Like,
my
that was
god.
legitimate surprise. Like, legitimate surprise.
Oh my
He
So
gosh.
was so nice. He taught us what the Dwayne Reed is. Never heard of it, but apparently it's a
good,
huge thing.
good.
So
Well,
He
what was he telling us a funny joke about like da 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 my like someone's name is Dwayne Reed and we're like, okay, hi Adam. Like and we're like, okay, cool. I don't know what that means.
yeah.
He's like, what? No. Anyway, okay. Well, that was my memory. Sorry, Sarah, what's yours?
I thought it would like just going out to eat with you guys, getting to the hotel, making that TikTok of like I fucking love this bread. That I
fucking
probably
love this
watched
bread.
that like 50 of those views are probably just me. But it was just like the whole experience, I think. Like everything about it from start to finish, like meeting Christina, hitting the road, like getting there, meeting you, the hotel, like
So
going
good.
out, like and I can't wait to have more time to spend like all three of us because I feel like
Mhm.
Rebecca was the star of the show and she had to be in bed as like early
Yeah,
as
when
like
and I
the
was a
next
basket. I
morning.
started. You can tell. I'm sure you can tell when I started turning into a basket case. I was just like,
Like, it's
"Mm-mm,
time to go.
You were very quiet,
mm-mm."
yeah.
I got very quiet because I started
Mhm.
getting like very nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that
Aw.
turned out to be good. I needed the sleep. The sucky thing was I had to get up at 4 to catch the 5:45 Staten Island ferry. I had filled my exercise ring on my watch before I got to the
That's
ferry.
wild.
And then because
Oh,
I took only
God.
one train, I was scared to take a transfer. I didn't know how long it was going to take, so I just took the blue line in and then walked from the station there. And then once you got to Staten Island, like my wave, like I got to Staten Island like 6 o'clock, 6:15. My wave did not start until 11:30.
That's wild.
So that's why I wasn't even using my phone. I was intentionally trying to not use my phone because I knew that the battery was going to start running down and everything, and I had limited pocket space, but it didn't matter. It was still just running down. So anyway, it's fine. It was also 20 degrees hotter than it was supposed to be.
Oh.
That sucked.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was like gross.
But literally that whole weekend was magical though. I can't even all of the downsides, even having to go to the hospital afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
I made it home before I went to the hospital. I was like, I'm not going to a hospital in New York.
Like, gotta get home first.
I mean, I didn't really feel like I needed to until I got back and I was like, I think I'm really dehydrated. Like,
Get those electrolytes, girl.
yeah, heart palpitations are not generally a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
Scary. Yeah.
I mean, I at least could diagnose myself now that I've been in the biz. So, and it was accurate. All they had to do is give me fluids and then I felt like a lot better.
Nice.
They're like, there's no way you were going to catch back up on yourself by yourself. Like
No.
you're at the point where like you need help with it.
Ooh.
So
Oh, I'm so glad you went in.
yeah, me too. I just saw literally all of my coworkers. So that was not fun.
Delightful. Delightful.
Anyway,
Jay,
that was it.
I love
It's
it.
been a long fry box.
It
You
has been.
also,
It's a
but
good
there's
one.
more. There's still more because you have a special event coming up.
Oh, she does. You guys. Okay, so this is Stargate related. So, okay, sorry for those who zoned out and
We don't care about our personal lives.
skip
We're
over.
back to Stargate.
Back to Stargate. Big Stargate. So everybody
yeah.
perk up. Listen.
So if you are a member of the Companion, this has already been announced to you. If you're not, you will get something maybe publicly in the next week or so. But since it's 3 Fry Short, I'm going to tell you now, which is the fact that the Companion is producing, and therefore I am producing, a roundtable with Chris Judge. It's called Chris Judge Elevating Black Voices in Sci-Fi. So it is a panel of 6 Black creators, actors, writers,
So cool.
that are all have been involved in some way, shape, or form in sci-fi related things, heavily, primarily. and we're doing it in person instead of over
Yay.
Zoom. So I'm
I-
flying out tomorrow morning,
Woohoo!
7:14 in the morning,
Okay, we'll
to
keep
go
this
to
short.
Burbank, and then Sunday we're actually shooting the roundtable. So
So
that is
exciting.
crazy to me. I want to do it justice. I think it's a very, very, very important topic.
Yes.
And it's for me as a white person who is obviously privileged because of the color of my skin. The main thing I want to do with that conversation is make space for them to have that conversation. You know, like I don't want to step on it. I want to elevate it. I want to make it happen. So, and we want to make it look as good as we possibly can too. So
It's gonna be awesome.
I can't wait.
super excited. I think it's going to be great. It will come out premiered on December 10th. So
Yay.
you look for a trailer teaser before that.
Yes, it's gonna be
Craig.
Oh,
Who can get enough
Yeah.
of Chris Judge? It's the right time too, man, with God of War, which
Yeah.
is apparently the game of the decade. People are calling it
Oh,
the
God,
game of
yes.
the decade. So
Yeah.
that's super
this
exciting.
is gonna be fantastic. I'm really excited, and I appreciate that it is a space for like just that you're the one that gets to be involved in the sense of like understanding your space in that, which is to
Mhm.
not have space. Like this
I think
is
it's
not.
tricky. It's tricky for people. It's tricky for white people. Sometimes we want to say too much to be too apologetic or to like, you
Mhm.
know, like I blah, 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 blah. It's not with the I and the me statements. It's letting them have the space
Mhm.
and say, and you sit back and shut the fuck up, basically, you know,
Yeah.
like shut the fuck
Listen.
up.
Yep.
Listen to this because it's important. So, yeah, I'm super excited. I think we have a really strong panel. We have a very well represented across genders and non-genders. So, yeah, it'll be great.
Yes, I'm excited. This is such a good fry box. Sorry, it was long, half personal, but then half like ended it with like a really cool, relevant topic. So I think that balances out.
Craig, that's a good point. And apparently, so Craig says the amount of people I've been trying to pull to Stargate using God of War. Apparently,
Mhm.
that is a thing. Gamers now, because they know Chris Judge from God of War, are discovering Stargate again. So that's
Whatever
really
it
cool.
takes.
Like, bring them in, get them
I'm here
over.
Come on over.
Come on over. We're welcoming here. So,
That's a good TikTok idea to do.
yeah,
Oh my god. All right. We have anything else for fry box?
that's all I got. I mean,
don't think
that's,
so.
I feel like plenty. So,
That was a lot.
Yeah.
We can jump right in.
All right.
Yeah.
I just had a mini heart attack because I thought I deleted all of my notes, but then
you
I also
definitely didn't
realized
because I'm
they're on.
staring at them right
Yeah,
now.
I realized they're also on Patreon too. So
They are. You could have
safe.
pulled them.
So
As
safe.
soon as you gave them, as soon as you sent them, I threw them on Patreon.
Yeah.
So,
Yay.
So this week we're talking about season 3, episode 5, which is Learning Curve. I don't know if it's before we started recording, but you said you didn't really get a chance to rewatch it, and it's not really like one that was like memorable or favorite.
to
Is that,
me,
like, yeah,
not to others, to me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be interested going through this conversation to really try to pick out why, because sometimes it's not memorable and I can't really identify why it didn't stick with me. So
yeah.
I think that'll be
There-
interesting.
I remember the basic concept, just some of the finer details that I was like, wait, how did that happen? What happened? It's a very interesting premise, and we'll get into it. But upon rewatching it, I still enjoyed it a lot. Definitely not as like memorable as some of the other ones, but very thought provoking, I think. And it had a really good ending. I'll say that. Far and few between when it comes, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, with the lack or not of the denouement
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah.
This
Well,
one
and
had
I-
a good ending.
Well, and I think this is why, like, in contradiction to like Rebecca's view on it, like it is one of, I don't always think of it as a favorite, but I really enjoy it because it has such a moral undertone to it, and the discourse at the end. I mean, and it does end on a happy note.
Yeah.
It's a feel good. It's a wow, a positive impact was made.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also like the child actors in this episode. Child actors can be kind of hit or miss for me. and it is what it is. Like they're children. So, but
Don't be hard on the children, Sarah.
well, okay. Here's a hot take, and you guys might hate me for this, but Cassandra, the child actor who played her, not a fan. I
Both
don't
or the young one.
the young Cassandra, like the one that we
Okay.
met in like what episode? I forget what
So
episode
not
it was.
teenage Cassandra, who's also been in other things I've seen.
Yeah,
but, like,
young,
young.
like kid, child, 10-year-old. I don't know. I just didn't buy it as much. It wasn't as like emotional for me. But the children actors in this episode, I thought were really good and effective.
Sorry.
And
I need to correct myself. Teen Cassie was actually the kid in Bane.
yes,
well.
yeah, I liked her too. It's just I forget. I don't know what her name is, but in the
Yeah.
Line of Duty, Cassandra, that one. So, just a note, if you aren't aware, because I saw this when I watched it tonight. In the U.S., Stargate is on Netflix. However, the last day to watch it on Netflix is November 30th. They will be taking it off, which I'm suspicious because
They did
I'm
this
pretty
last
sure they
year.
did that last year. Yeah, and they kept it on. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But this is your notice. Like,
Yeah.
find other ways to
Find
watch
another
it.
way. Apparently, it is somewhat on Prime some places, but there are episodes missing apparently or
Oh.
something.
It's spotty.
I have it all on Apple. I like 10 years ago purchased it all on Apple, so it's like one step close, like one step away from like having the DVDs, I guess. So
Yeah, I have the DVDs.
yeah.
So, and just for some context, this episode aired July 23rd, 1999. So,
Right before Rebecca's senior year in high school.
I know. I was just thinking, what was I doing in July of '99? I was going into 9th grade. No, I was going into 10th grade. Summer of 10th grade.
was
Ooh.
8 years old.
I was about to say you were
He's a wee baby. He's a little baby.
I was on
baby.
Yeah.
Just a baby. Oh, Sarah.
So the episode opens off-world on a planet called Orban, and the Stargate's inside this building where there's an archaeological digging process. And there are children working throughout the site, and one approaches Daniel and gives him water. So the Stargate activates, Jack and Teal'c return. It's clear that Daniel has been here for a while, and Jack makes a comment about all these children working. He's like, you don't have child labor laws on this planet? Like, what's going on? But Daniel explains they are Uron. And I don't know if I even tried to put like the phonetic, I can never figure out how to say it, but Uron, basically, they act as
Uron.
apprentices to adults.
Mhm.
And Daniel shares some of these artifacts that he's found. He's really eager to continue digging to find out what he can learn. There is a connection between this culture and Earth, but I honestly could give two shits about any of that. Like, it's honestly just a vehicle to propel the actual plot of the show, this episode. There's some more comments made about it, but basically Daniel is digging on this site, on this planet, and they're connected to Earth in some way, shape, or form. Kaylin, who is an adult, he enters the room with a young girl named Marin and discusses how eager they are to move forward with exchanging knowledge between their two worlds. Teal'c is going to teach them everything about the Goa'uld so they can defend themselves, and they are going to provide Sam with a Naquadah reactor to study. And this reactor is like the size of a shoebox. It's pretty small for what they're saying it is. And it's being held by this young girl, Marin. So Daniel and Teal'c stay on Orban while Jack, Kaylin, and Marin go back to Earth, and Sam and Hammond greet them in the gate room. They present Sam with the reactor, and she is allowed to study it through the duration of their exchange. So while Teal'c's teaching them about the Goa'uld, she can study this, like she has full access to all that she needs. Kaylin and Marin are about to like bounce. They're like, all right, here you go. Bye, girl. I'm out here. But Sam is like, wait a minute. Hold on. Like, I need help with this. Like, you can't just hand this over to me. I need someone to teach me how it works, like how they're put together, how it's constructed, the components. And Kalen, he seems confused and he doesn't understand and says that, you know, he doesn't know this. Like, I don't know. It's not my area of expertise. But then Marin steps forward and she offers to teach Sam. So this young girl who's like
Mhm.
10, 11 years old is like, I got you, girl. Opening credits.
I always remember finding it interesting because, and it was helpful like reading it again kind of in your notes. There's a very well detailed out exchange of like advanced like citizen like society, like there's like exchange of knowledge and this and agreements and like treaties like been arranged and negotiated. And I find that interesting because then you assume in that this is a very adult driven society, and I find it interesting that stark contrast of like I thought it was like I remember thinking like that's interesting the opening because you're like, wait a second, the adults are dumb, like it's the children that know stuff. Like I remember that, I don't know, just a ADHD moment, but I remember it being like I remember it just being like, okay, normally Stargate doesn't get that detailed into its backplot of like laying out a story, I guess from a organizational standpoint, but this, I don't know. Anyway, don't mind me, y'all. Tonight is just going to be, we're rolling with it.
No, I definitely thought it was interesting how it's structured because you can tell they've been in talks and like communicating with them for a while now. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of past that point of first contact of, oh, hello, we are from Earth. And they're like, Daniel's been digging on this site for a while. Like he's all smudged with dirt and everything. And like, so we're kind of stepping in the middle of this, which is good because we don't really care about all that first contact stuff, at least for this story. And yeah, like I like the dynamic of like what we find out to be like the adults are pretty much stupid and the children are the smart ones in the society. But it's interesting to see the dynamic that you can kind of pick up stuff is weird. That it's like, what is this? This is strange. Something's not right here. Something's off. And then when you learn about how it happened, you're like, oh, that's why like it feels so strange. So we have our opening credits, and then before they allow Marin to access Sam's lab, they just want to have Janet do an exam on her. And we learn that Marin is basically a savant. Like she's a child genius, and she's extremely intelligent. She specializes in the Naquadah reactor technology. And there's this kind of funny exchange between Jack and her, and he's like, hey, I understand you're a reactor expert. How old are you? She's like, I'm 11. How old are you? And then he's like, so I understand you're a reactor expert. Like, he's just like...
He's like, nope, not going there.
Yeah. Back on Orban, Teal'c is helping Daniel do archaeology stuff.
Do archaeology stuff.
Do the digging
We're doing the archaeology. And Kalen comes up with his son, Toman, who, and I don't know, it kept autocorrecting as Timon, like Timon and Pumbaa, so I'm sorry if that's in there.
Also, does Stargate not really like the name Toman? Like, and very similar names? Like
Toman, Tolan, the like.
So I'm thinking specifically in the last two seasons, Vala's dude face who's with the Ori, like he's Toman or something like that too. It's a recycled name.
Need to ask about this.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments will probably tell us here in a minute. So
I think they just took like regular names. Like, okay, how can we make Tom like a little more
Tommen
alien? Or like not normal. Toman, cool, got it. Let's roll with it for like 5 different characters.
Yeah, nobody will remember it. It's fine.
No,
little did they know, 20 years later, we're talking about it.
We noticed. Trust me, we noticed.
So Tommen is also one of these Uron, whatever, these child specialist savants. And he is going to work with Teal'c to be taught about the Goa'uld and what all their whole deal is and what they're about. Daniel asked Kalen about the other Uron that he was working with. Like there was another one that he was working with, but Kalen is like, she's not here anymore. She had to go experience her ovarium. And Daniel asks, like, was that some kind of graduation? Like, is she done being an apprentice? And Kaylin, like, looks confused. And he's like, yeah, that's an approximate definition, sure. And
Not
then he kind of like,
suspicious at all.
but it's suspicious, but like he just seems kind of dumb. Like,
Yeah.
or just not understanding the social like context or social cues of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
He like redirects Daniel altogether and like drops the conversation. He's like, well, come view our city. Like, it's the daytime and the pyramid that we have looks really great in the daylight. So let's go look at that. And
come look at our
Tommen can stay
pyramid.
here
Got a
with
cool
Teal.
one.
Shiny
Yeah.
things.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. So there was this exchange. Tommen, first of all, he's like this little 10-year-old kid, like the freckliest kid. Like,
So cute.
he's like so cute, but he looks at Teal'c and he's like, "What's your purpose?" Or no, Teal'c looks at him and he's like, "What is your purpose here?" And Tommen says, "I'm making observations of your physical characteristics. Dr. Jackson tells me you were once a warrior in service for the Gould." And Teal'c says, "Yeah, pretty much. That's correct." And Tommen says, "I think I understand now why the Gould are so feared." To which I'm like, did he just call Teal'c scary? Was he like, oh damn, I understand why the Gould are scary? Like, if they got
He's
people.
intimidating.
Can
Yeah.
I sidebar something? I'm
Yeah.
remembering. Okay, so I had a production meeting today over Zoom with Chris, right?
Yeah.
And other people. And he was talking about how I had never heard this before, but he was talking about how he saw Teal'c as like in the Jaffa, he saw Teal'c like on his planet as like the funny guy, even. Like he probably was like lighthearted, funny guy, but
Mhm.
then he had to go like free his people, right? And then after his people were freed, he actually started trying to act it, like try to portray it on screen that way, like Teal'c being a lot lighter, like
Yeah.
lighthearted and happier. And they ended up cutting a lot of it apparently.
Boo.
Mm.
Because no, he has to be the serious, like scary guy, you know?
It's such a disservice because when we do see Teal'c being multidimensional, it's so fucking good.
Apparently it could have been a lot better. Like
Yeah, that they
'cause
robbed us.
Chris was like, he only got that serious in his mind, he only got that serious because he was trying to like save his people, right?
Yeah.
But like, because everybody would be that serious in that case. But like once his people are liberated, he can go back to being like
The
like he
classic
tells
of
it
Tuvok.
like the joke that he tells in
Yeah.
you know, like it's
That,
The,
yeah.
the Tesh
the
guard's nose
Tesh guard's
drips.
nose. Like that's proof right there that like Teal'c likes jokes, you know. So it was just very sad to hear that it's like this is one of those. It's another one of those like the black guy has to be the serious tribe guy. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's that thing again and again
Yeah.
and again.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it more now that like I'm hearing him tell me these stories and everything. It's like, dang,
Mm-hmm.
that sucks. Anyway,
For real.
continue.
So I have a big chunk of dialogue.
Let's do it.
We got O'Neill, Fraser, Marin, Carter.
So I got Carter.
O'Neill.
I'll do Marin.
I'll do Frasier
And-
too. It's fine.
Okay, yeah, there's not a lot of Fraser. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Between Frasier and Carter is not a ton. So
So Jack says, "How's our little rocket scientist doing?"
we're almost done, Colonel.
I am not a rocket scientist.
I think what Colonel O'Neill means is that you're very smart.
You find my intelligence level unusual.
No, there's a lot of intelligent people around here, just not as young as you.
You mean you were not always as smart as you are now?
No, we spent a long time in school to get to this point.
Please explain what school is.
School is a place where you go to learn. A teacher gives you information and you take different classes to learn different subjects.
So this is how you and Dr. Fraser became scientists?
Mhm.
You aren't a scientist?
Oh no.
Then you are not as smart as Major Carter and Dr. Fraser.
Sam's trying to not laugh. And Jack says, "Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by." Okay, no, I'm not. But while they were stuck in school, I was out doing other things, like having fun. You know what fun is, don't you?
And then she shakes her head no, she's confused.
Okay, fun is what you do to make yourself happy, like music, games. It's whatever you do when you're not learning to be a rocket scientist.
I am here to teach Major Carter about the reactor.
Sounds like fun to me.
Whatever. Yeah, go ahead, knock yourselves out. Losers. So this was such an interesting exchange because Marin is very clearly smart, like genius level smart, but she like doesn't know what teaching is. She doesn't know what learning is.
Mm-mm.
Like it's insane. And we're kind of getting into what this whole episode is about. So from what you can tell so far, these people seem odd. Like there's something not right about them. The Uran children seem very adult-like, while Kaylin, the only adult we've interacted with so far, seems really like naive and spaced out and like not understanding anything that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Back on Orban, Toman is learning about the gold from Teal'c and how his symbiote works. So he's kind of like, okay, so what happens when your symbiote matures? Well, it'll turn into a fully adult Gould. Well, won't you die then? What happens like if that symbiote doesn't take a host? Then the symbiote, like
Mhm.
he's learning all about how that relationship works.
Mhm.
Daniel is like super excited about this pyramid that he just went out and saw. And he's trying to explain it to Kaylin and the significance and how it can be linked back to Earth and like the origin of their people. But Kaylin is just like confused and doesn't understand anything. And
Mm.
he like they come back into the pyramid and he's just like, explain this all to Toman. And he like dips, he like walks out. He's like, tell my child. Bye. Odd. It's so odd.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go back to the SGC, and Sam is struggling to learn how this Nakoda reactor works. She's asking Marin all these questions, but Marin kind of brushes her off, not understanding why Sam doesn't already know this. Like they were talking about like super intricate things about like
Mhm.
what is this made of and like how is this, and Sam's like, okay, we need to start over. Like, can you tell me what the casing, just the outside case, what is that made of? And then Marin like ignores that question and starts talking again about like whatever component she was talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just weird because she's not picking up any social cues. She doesn't understand why Sam doesn't understand things. And then Janet comes in and she's like, hey, can we I need to talk to Marin about the test that we ran. And we find out that Marin's blood work shows trace levels of silicone, trinium, and some other element. And then Janet points to this monitor and shows them what caused these results. It's a nanocyte or nanite in her blood,
Dun,
which,
dun, dun.
flashback, why do we keep going back to this episode? Brief candle.
Uh,
That's what turned Jack old. So they're
Very
immediately
old.
like, fuck, what is this? We cannot have these.
No. No.
Jack's like, I can't do that again, man. There was a
Nothing so
couple-
brief about that candle.
Those really weird days of him going from old to young. Didn't we talk about that?
So bad. It was
I know.
Shedding his old
know, it's
man
really
lizard skin in the shower.
What?
Whoa!
Couple of weird, gross days for him.
There's a really intense chemical peel.
For real, yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Oh.
But then Janet did an MRI on her brain, and it's showing there are millions of these nanites in her brain. She found like one loose one in her blood work, but there's millions in her brain. So now we get plot dump part one.
Plot dump.
all right.
Hot
Who? All right. I'll assume Marin.
Same roles except
roles.
Christina gets the hammy line at the end.
Ooh, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah, there's a couple hammies.
I'll take the
Wait.
hammies.
Actually,
What?
Is
yeah,
there?
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's one
want-
Hammond.
Okay.
Okay. All right. My nanoprocessors. Oh my god, I can't talk. My nanoprocessors are harmless to you.
Marin, we've run into these little beggars before, and they're anything but harmless.
We encountered a civilization in which the Goa'uld used a similar method, nanocytes, to accelerate the age of a population. Colonel O'Neill was adversely affected.
Oi.
These nanites were created by the Orbanians in an Orbanian laboratory 49 years ago. All of my people have them. It is a way we acquire knowledge.
Wait a minute. So you're saying, Marin, that all Orbanians' brains look like this?
Each citizen receives a nanite after every avarium. Uroni children are given millions more nanites at birth because we are required to learn vast amounts of information very quickly. This must be done at infancy before the neural pathways are established.
So these nanites act as additional synapses?
Yes, but that is all they do. They do not age us and cannot leave the brain.
But Marin, we found one of these nanites in your blood.
Well, if a nanite malfunctions, it is programmed to disconnect from the brain and be absorbed into the bloodstream. Those are inactive and incapable of harming others. I'm sorry if I have alarmed you, and I understand if you wish me to return to Orban, whatever.
Oh, I don't think that would be necessary. Do you, General?
If you think it's safe, Major Carter, then you can continue to work. But I still want these blood samples, Doctor.
Love it.
Perfect.
So they were kind of freaked out at first, but Marin pretty much has an answer to all of their questions. Anything that they could be concerned about, she has an answer for. And it, it seems pretty legit. And essentially, these Uron children are not born as these savants, these geniuses. They are chosen to receive these nanites and in turn become these genius savant children, basically becoming sponges for knowledge. They absorb everything, every bit of knowledge. And then when they go through this avarium, one nanite is given to each citizen of whatever the world's called. I forget what it's called already. And then they just like soak up that knowledge. Like that's how they learn. They don't have to try. They don't have to like study. They don't have to apply themselves. It's just like, here's your nanite. Okay, now you know quantum physics. Congrats. Like that's how they learn.
It's like downloading in the Matrix. Like,
Yeah.
Cheaters.
mhm.
Cheaters.
So back on Orban, there it is, Timon.
Timon.
I knew it was
Where's
going to
Pumbaa?
be in there somewhere. What is that?
Timon.
Tommen is speaking to Kaylin, and he's like scared. He's like, I need to undergo this avarium now. I'm not 12 yet, but what I've learned from Teal'c, like, I need to give that to all of the citizens because we need to protect the planet. And all of the stuff that he studied, defense technologies, it has to be put to use because if the Goa'uld find them, they'll destroy them. So he's like, I got to take all the stuff that I've learned and basically give it to everybody. Back at the SGC, Marin is looking at a plant in that Sam has, and she's like, oh, did you study botany as well? But Sam explains, like, no, it's just a decoration. So it's almost like she looks at everything as like in Sam's lab as something she studied. Like, oh, there's a plant, so you must be an expert in botany too. Like, there's nothing extracurricular. It's all very
There's
much
no
like,
fluff. There's no
Sam kind of designed her own version of the reactor, but it looks much different because she had to improvise with the material she had. And she asked Marin, like, hey, can you sketch out the reactor core? Can you draw me a picture of it? I need to get an idea of what it looks like. And Marin does not understand this at all. She's never had to draw in her entire life because it's not required of her. And Sam's like, it's super easy. And she draws a stick figure. And Marin is like, what the fuck is that? And Sam's like, it's a picture of me, but like a basic representation. And that's all she needs from Marin. She's just like, I need a basic representation of this reactor drawn. So Marin gets to drawing. It's a stick figure of me. That'll come back up like 2 more times in this episode, so
love it.
It's funny. Okay, here we go.
Oh, hey, Ergie.
It's just the tail. Just the
Hi,
tail
Ergie.
going across.
So back on Orban, Daniel and Teal'c are still working on excavating when Kaylin comes in with another Uron named Solon. And Kaylin is like super urgent all of a sudden, and he's like much more knowledgeable about the Goa'uld, and he's finally understands like what a threat they are. And he says, Teal'c, you will please tell Solon methods to fight the Goa'uld. Which weapons and strategies have been effective in their defeat? Also, anything in your experience as the first Prime of Apophis that would be of assistance. So now, like before, it was like he couldn't care less. He didn't know anything. And now he's like, you are the first Prime of Apophis. We need strategies. We need methods of defense. Like, he's all about it now. And Teal'c is like, okay, like, this kid is fine, but where's Toman. Like, I was talking to him. Can I talk to him again? But Kaylin explains he's unavailable because he's undergone this avarium. And Teal'c is pissed, and he's like, take me to him right now, immediately. So we cut back to the SGC, and Jack goes into Sam's lab. Marin is looking for more paper, and Sam has fallen asleep. And Jack wakes her up. We see Marin's drawing. Okay, this basic representation is basically a perfect schematic drawing of this reactor. Like, perfectly sized and everything. Not a basic representation. Like, she just took everything literally and to the next level. So Jack insists that Marin, like, take a break, have some fun. But Marin is like, what is fun? I don't understand what you're talking about. I need more paper and pencils so I can draw this shit. So then going back to Orban, Toman is sitting on top of a bunk. He's like fidgeting while Teal'c and Daniel stand beside him. And he doesn't react to Teal'c. He doesn't recognize him. And he appears to be unable to speak. Which leads us to plot dump number 2. We got Teal'c, Kaylin, and Daniel. So who do we want to be?
I'm Daniel.
I'll be Teal'c.
All right. Kaylin it is.
And Teal'c says, explain this avarium.
It is the ceremony in which a Euron's nanites are removed and then distributed. Each adult and each non-Euron child then receives an injection containing 1 nanite, which becomes part of his or her synaptic network, adding to those nanites received from previous avariums.
So when you say he gave you his knowledge, you meant it. You meant it. Okay, you meant it literally. Struggle.
It was a beautiful ceremony. Now you have seen it. We must resume our work, Dr. Jackson.
What will become of Toman?
He stays here with the other past Euron.
That's it? You don't play with him?
Well, what is play?
Interacting with him? Teaching him new things?
These children cannot be taught.
Have you ever tried?
Oh, yes, but past Euron children cannot receive new nanites. The brain rejects them.
Well, have you ever tried teaching them without nanites?
What do you mean? They share a concerned glance. There is no need for concern. These children are well cared for.
Kaylin, this is your son.
My son is here now.
And he points,
To his head.
Which was kind of like eerie. They like had an eerie, like zoom in and dramatic music, and they cut to a different scene.
Cut a
So
commercial or different scene.
yeah,
So like he basically gets lobotomized or whatever the word is.
yeah, he's turned into like a vegetable. He still retains all his motor functions, like he can
Yeah.
walk and stand and like like all the fine motor skills, but he's a vegetable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure now that I'm vividly remembering this episode that right there is why I did not like this episode. Because like that concept I really don't like. Like the idea of being lobotomized or like you have all this knowledge and then you lose it, or Alzheimer's or things like that. Like that is like the ultimate, oh God, I don't want that to happen to me. So I think that right there is why I don't watch this episode. Like
taps into like our own fears of losing like our own faculties and whatnot.
Well, it's just like also knowledge. Like I cherish learning things and I cherish knowledge. And like,
Yeah.
that's like to have that taken away is like an ultimate, like terrible fate, basically. So I'm pretty sure that was, it's not triggering, but that was probably why I'm like, I don't need to be watching this episode over and over again like other ones, So
Yeah.
Fair.
yeah.
So
I think I figured it out as we've been talking through. So
Yay.
and like it's like he's kind of in his own room. It's not like a jail cell or like anything scary. Like it's not like, American Horror Story Asylum where he's like tossed into a gross, cell with like poop smeared on the walls or whatever. But it's still like they kind of just discard these children. And it's like, okay, we'll take care of them and like they'll be fine, but they're stupid now and we can't teach them, so they're just walking vegetables at this point. And essentially what happens is after these children undergo this avarium, they become vegetables, but they're cared for, but they're stored away. and they're unable to receive any new nanites to learn like the Orbanians learn, and they don't try to teach them in any other way. So it's weird. It's a weird concept, but to them,
Very
this is all
strange.
normal.
Hmm.
So Teal'c brings this information back to Earth, and now they're like concerned for Marin. And they're like, she cannot undergo this procedure. She's going to be turned into a vegetable too, and that's not cool with us. We don't like that.
Nope.
So
not
we
cool.
got some more dialogue. O'Neill,
Carter Fraser. I'll do
Fraser,
Carter Fraser.
Teal'c.
Abby Hammond,
And
and then
Uh,
Daniel eventually. Oh no, Hammond.
Hammond
yeah.
and you can be Hammond and Teal'c, and then Sarah
Yeah.
Cavionia.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Excellent. General, she's going to go back there and get her brain sucked out, and I dare anyone else to phrase it more delicately.
Sir, I agree with you, but we can't just keep Marin here, can we?
Why not? We'd be saving her life.
Fraser says. Okay, why don't we just simply try asking Kaylin not to harvest Marin's nanites?
I do not believe the Orbanians would understand the reason for your request. They do not see this as wrong.
Well, then we need to make them understand.
Teal'c, return to Orban. Colonel, before we risk an interplanetary incident, I'd like to try the diplomatic route first.
Incident.
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 Good old
Love
Hammy
it.
trying to be the diplomat. I love that. This is where like I kind of was rubbed the wrong way, because here we have our Earth values. We're just going to
Mhm.
shove our Earth values down other people's throats without maybe knowing the whole context of the situation.
Well, and I'm
Um,
I'm really appreciative that at least Teal'c was the one to have the moment of like, they don't like having that like interjection of, I think we need to like be mindful that they don't see this as we do. We're not on the same playing field here. Like,
Yeah.
probably should talk about that.
I'm a little weird about the timeline of them having these nanites and then nobody knowing another way to learn.
Mhm.
Because earlier in this, it said it was like they've had it for like 40 something years. Like,
Yeah, I wonder if like in that time frame or transition, they all just became stupider as they implemented
Maybe-
this.
maybe the nanites overwrote certain things in their
Yeah. Could
be.
brains. Like,
Because they clearly had to be smart to come up with this to begin with.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
Somebody had to do that, and it wasn't going to be a child that did that, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
No. Interesting.
yeah, it's weird to
Hmm.
think about. I'm going to
Hmm.
go with the nanites kind of like they did like a full reformatting of the hard drive or something.
Oh, for
like-
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And when you think about it, like, it's like if the brain isn't constantly learning, it's going to atrophy. And essentially, you're going to forget, like, that muscle memory if you don't develop it. Like, if these.
Right.
Kaylin is what? He is not 49 years old. So he was born after these whole nanites were invented and put into use. So he never had any formal learning. He never learned how to learn.
Mhm.
So it was just like, here's your, nanite. And then everything was just given to him without him having to work for it.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, Craig agrees. 40 years is wild quick, he
Yes.
says.
Mhm. All right.
So Kaylin does not take this well, and he refuses to discuss any of these alternatives. And there's this discussion between Daniel and Kaylin. You guys can go ahead and read that.
Perfect.
Go for it, Daniel.
Okay, you see, in our cultures, even doing anything that results in harming a child.
We do not harm our children, Dr. Jackson. You have seen Toman. You have seen how well he is cared for.
Okay, I think we can work this out. We just need to sit down and discuss some alternatives.
There are no alternatives. Marin must undergo the Avarium. You will return her immediately.
So there's this disconnect because Kaylin is like, what do you like? We take care of them, our children. Like, look at, he's got everything he needs. But Daniel doesn't see it that way, and neither does anybody else on Earth. And Marin is not concerned at all about the Avarium. She believes it's a great honor to share her knowledge with her people, and the Orbanians basically don't know how to learn any other way. We have a comment. Let's read this.
Yeah.
The current nanite model is 40 years old, but maybe other nanite models were in use in some parts of the planet. So the forgetting wasn't overnight.
That's a
Yeah.
good theory.
So Marin rejects the offer to take asylum, and Kaylin wants her to be returned immediately. Back on Orban, there's this other interaction which I think was really interesting between Daniel and Kaylin. So you guys got that one too.
Yes.
You claim to love knowledge, yet when you find something you don't like, you demand that we change to please you.
No, it is not to please me. You are an incredibly advanced society. Why can't you find a better way to educate your people?
There is no better way than the Avarium.
Even if that means giving up your son?
It was the happiest day of my life when Tomin was selected to be a Euron. I knew even before he was born that he would make an incredible contribution to our society.
And you never once thought otherwise?
Not once, and neither did Tomin.
What if Marin does?
Marin is one of only a few Euron children, and the only one to have spent 10 years learning the Naquita technology. Without her Avarium, the people who are awaiting her knowledge to continue their research, they will have to wait 12 years for another Euron to learn.
Well, I didn't know that.
Marin does. She does not question her duty. It is you, Dr. Jackson, who are misguided to think you can convince her otherwise.
I thought Kaylin's line that he says, "You claim to love knowledge, yet when you find something you don't like, you demand that we change to please you." And it's true. You know, they see nothing wrong with this. This is how their culture functions, and it's. I'm trying to like read through. I had other things I know I wanted to say, but now I can't remember.
It's okay.
But they look at it as an honor. Like, my son got to contribute so much to our society. He did so many good things. He passed down so much knowledge. They view it as like this beautiful honor, and Earth is basically like, that's child abuse.
It's like that Strange New Worlds episode.
Yes,
which was also based on a short story. Like this whole concept is
but that was
trope,
terrifying.
and not a bad way, but it's a trope that is used a lot. You know, like it's that in sci-fi. Oh yeah, that one was super terrifying.
That was fucking scary. I was gonna bring that up, but then I forgot. And thank you for bringing that up because that shit terrified me. Like, butt firmly clenched. I was like, are they gonna do this for real? Like, oh shit, they did. Yikes. Scary.
Yeah.
I feel like it also makes me think of like in a different way, but the whole story of like My Sister's Keeper, like you guys read that book or watched it, but it's just in a different way, like where it's not every child, but like, because it's not like the entire children of this world are doing it. There's just chosen ones, and this like sacrificial like choice of like martyrdom that like the child didn't have. I don't know. It's that whole like anyway, more on that later.
For anyone who's interested in that Strange New Worlds episode, it's season 1, episode 6, Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach.
Ooh, you got that real quick.
Oh, I'm on it. I'm on it.
That was terrifying.
It's way more devastating than this episode of Stargate.
I've never seen it.
This is a nicer way to look at it. That shit, scary.
It's super scary.
Oh God. Oh my God. Okay, I lost my place in the notes. I'll find them. Where are we at in the notes?
We have a Carter and Marin scene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Marin's trying to convince Sam to get on her side.
Got it. I'm there.
You know, she thinks Sam would understand because she's a scientist, and
there's
this really, you guys can read it. There's this funny,
Did you find it, Christina?
Yeah, I'm there.
Cool. Marin, you're only 11. Half the interesting things in my life didn't happen until I turned 15.
What kind of interesting things?
Oh, just stuff.
If it were possible, I would give you one of my nanites, and then you would know that it's all right.
Thank you, but I don't think that would make a difference. Just real quick, Craig, there's like this idyllic society. He's asking which Strange New Worlds episode. It's this idyllic society, and there's this like one kid, and they think he's supposed to be like become like the new leader or the king or something, and everybody's like he's super important, and his dad's all excited about him being it and everything. And then like I don't want to tell you the end, but like bad things happen. Bad things happen.
He's not a leader.
Do you remember now, Craig? I won't say anymore, I promise.
I think Pike.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
now he's got
yeah.
it.
Pike had like a romantic relationship with the one lady on that planet.
Oh yeah, he pulled a Kirk. He pulled a Kirk in that episode.
I
Anyway,
love his hair, by the way.
it just keeps getting taller as the season goes on.
It truly does. Adam's like, he has a dent in his head. I'm like, that's his part. Like, that's an extreme side part, okay? It's not a dent.
Anyway, continuing on.
Oh,
I made a
goodness.
TikTok about that too. I'll have to send it to you. I don't know if you remember, but so Sam is trying to finish this reactor, but something's wrong with it. It's broken. It's not working. And Marin's like tries to tell her, like, oh yeah, it's because, but Sam's like, no, hold on. I need to talk it out and figure it out myself. And she goes through and she's like, well, if I do this, and then I do that, and then because of this, okay, yeah, it works. Like she figured it out. And here's another bit of dialogue because Marin is now learning about how to learn.
Yep. So Marin's like, why wouldn't you let me give you the solution?
What would have been the fun in that?
Fun?
Well, yeah, figuring something out on my own, especially if it's been eluding me a while, it's far more satisfying than having the answer given to me.
But not as efficient.
So I think this is kind of the crux of the episode. Their society or bond is like the most efficient. What's the most efficient way for us to learn? This way. We're going to give all these children these nanites, and then they're going to give them back to us full of knowledge. But then Sam is like, they're looking at it this way. Let me learn it myself. Let me find out myself. Let me figure it out on my own. So back in Hammond's office, Daniel Marin back to Earth. And, you know, he says that Daniel came to realize like the importance to her people. Like Daniel finally gets their whole process. He might not agree with it ethically, but he understands the need for it.
Right.
And Jack is still not having it. And he's like, I'm not going to try to understand it. The way you treat your children is absurd. You don't deserve them. And I think this is Jack's personal experience talking because he lost his child. And now he's seeing the society like kind of discard these children when they're done with them and like shove them off to the edges of society. So I understand where he's coming from too. Back in Sam's lab, she tests the reactor in the lab. She turns the thing on.
I
What are
mean,
you doing? Like a shockwave emits, and like all the alarms go off. Like the awful like. You guys know the iPhone alarm? That's like the fog horn where it's like
Yes.
what? That shit
Yes.
like triggers me so deeply because I'll hear it on a TV show or like something similar, like the alarms in the SGC.
Oh no.
I'm like, I gotta go to work. I gotta get up.
Oh
Oh no.
That alarm is I'm Pavlov
no. Oh no.
into being afraid of that alarm.
No, no.
So Marin is kind of surprised. Like she's like, it worked. But she's like kind of like it worked, but it didn't look exactly like mine. She didn't do everything exactly the way that we did, but it still worked. And then Sam's phone rings because she's like blowing up the whole base. She's like, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. And then
Thanks.
Jack,
I love Jack. Jack is like, oh, it's my time. Let's go.
yeah, make our getaway. So he like escorts Marin out. Like they sneak away. And on their way out, he's like, look, you came here to learn, right? Well, there's something I want to show you, but I have to take you off the base for it. And he doesn't exactly have permission, so he's sneaking away. Hammond is on the phone with Sam, rightfully so, reaming her out. Like,
Let
girl,
me read this. I got to get my Hammond
Go
voice
for it.
going. All right. In the future, Major, before you activate any device that includes the word reactor, I would appreciate it if you would just notify me.
She's like, yes, sir, absolutely. My bad.
My
There
B.
goes
My bad.
Stefan on my computer. Okay.
Okay.
So he also asks Marin to be brought to his office, and Sam inadvertently snitches on him. She's dry snitching. She's like, oh, O'Neill, like Colonel O'Neill took her out of the room. Like, she's with him. And Hammond immediately knows what's up. He tries to call like the guards outside and be like, if you see Colonel O'Neill, and they must have been like, oh, he just left. Sorry. So they missed him. Jack takes Marin to an elementary school, and he knows the teacher, which at first I was like, damn, this would not really fly today. Like, you can't just walk up to an elementary school, but he knows the people there,
Yeah.
I guess. But still, it's like, hello, fellow children. Like,
It's so
I'm
funny.
Have this
back.
child.
right.
She is with
Oh.
you now. Thank you.
But I guess he knows the teacher from Cassandra. Like, that might have been Cassandra's elementary school. And it seems that he's come
You
here
gotta
before.
feel like the kids are like, why do these random people keep just bringing children here that are like, this is weird. Like the art teachers
military
like,
people.
this
Yeah.
is really bizarre.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
yeah. I was thinking that too, and I was like, I wonder like what the cover story is for them.
Uh-huh.
Like, Cassandra came from Toronto. Ooh, okay, so why? Like, what's her backstory? Why?
Foreign exchange,
and
military
how
secrets.
are the military involved in this? Like, why is a colonel dropping her off and being like, here's this child. She's
Yeah.
yours. She's here now. So I don't know. But the kids also know him too. So like I imagine him coming there on career day and be like, hello, I am a colonel in the Air Force. Look at my sunglasses. I fly planes, like stuff like that. But he asked all the other children to show Marin around and like play with her. Marin has no idea how to play or have fun. And honestly, like the fun that's depicted in this episode is the fucking driest, boringest fun I've ever seen. It's which we'll get to that at the end too. I'm like,
Yes.
damn, this woof. So
Woof.
Jack gets the teacher to allow Marin to come to art class, and the assignment is to paint something they love. And once again, Marin is clueless. She has no idea how to paint something she loves. She doesn't understand the assignment. She did not. It's the TikTok sound. I did not understand the assignment. This
I
was
love
so fucking funny because okay, the assignment is to paint something you love, right? Jack is walking around. One of the little girls is painting him. A bold move. Like very clearly him with like his leather jacket, and he looks at it. He's like, "I look fat," and like as a joke, I was like, "Damn." I feel embarrassment. Like I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm like, does this little girl have a crush on him? Like paint something you love. Ooh, I'm gonna paint Colonel Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Schoolgirl
Likely.
crush. It was kind of cute,
Likely.
but hilarious. And when Jack goes back to Marin's painting, we see that she's painting the reactor in perfect detail, like watercolor shading and everything.
Like
It
might
looks
be a
perfect.
security breach issue, like that getting out there. Like
Yeah.
it's fine.
He'll pass it off as like it's a radio or something. So there's some dialogue. This is basically, you guys can read through this because he's trying to get her to understand like how to not be perfect and do everything perfectly and in detail. So you guys got this.
Got it. Do you want to be O'Neill or do you want to be Marin in this one?
I'll be O'Neill.
Okay. This brush is too wide to accurately render the wires.
He tears off the picture and crumples it into a ball.
Rude. Okay, let's try this again. Something you love. Something that's not a machine, okay? Remember those flowers in Major Carter's lab? The ones on the desk? Paint one of those. Go ahead.
Mara starts to paint a picture in the corner of her paper.
Bigger. Big.
The other children have drawn their pictures when O'Neill returns to check on Marin's progress. She has drawn the outer leaves of a plant, also in perfect detail. They are the most perfect looking leaves I've ever seen.
There's no purple.
Use red.
If I could have another cup, I could mix the blue with the red.
Make the flower red.
Those flowers were purple. You asked me to draw a flower, but you do not give me the means to do this accurately.
Marin, listen to me. It doesn't have to be exact. Paint me a flower. I don't care what it looks like. Here, use this.
He takes away her brush and hands her a bigger one.
And don't stop with one. Paint the whole garden.
But
Paint.
So basically, it's like, you will have fun and you will like it. Have fun.
this That is such an accurate parenting moment where you're just like, I'm trying to help you here. Stubborn piece of shit. Yes.
So by the time Marin is done, all of the other kids are gone. And she takes her picture to show O'Neill. And she has painted a picture full of plants and trees and the stick figure in the corner.
Nice. Who's that?
It's a representation of Major Carter.
Of course it is.
Is it right?
Oh, yeah. It's way more than right.
Thank you, Colonel O'Neill, for teaching this to me.
You're welcome. Marin, all you have to do is ask. I'll find a way to make it happen.
I have a duty to my people. My knowledge is important to them. You did promise.
So back at the SGC, Jack is waiting in the control room to say goodbye to Marin. Hammond threatens him with a court-martial, and but Jack is just like, I don't give a fuck.
Yep.
Flips my hair. Like, I don't care. I made a kid have fun today, so I'll take that as a win. Jack gives her a gift. It's a box of crayons. The good ones, Crayola, 64 counts.
The
None of that
best.
Rose art bullshit. So Kaylin and Marin depart. They thank them for all they have learned. And some time has passed. I don't know how long it was, if it was like a day or a week, but some time has passed in between. And Hammond tells SG-1 they received transmission from Orban, and Kaylin wishes to meet them immediately. Kaylin is waiting for them, and he says nothing's wrong, but he wants to show them something. And we see children playing hopscotch. Former Uron children are laughing and playing everywhere. And again, this looks like the most boring fun I've ever seen. And they use the same, this was so annoying. And I'm like, if I'm noticing this, I can only imagine like how Rebecca, you would notice this, but it's like the same background stock footage sound of like children laughing. It's like the same child laughing over and over and over again. And I was like, this is awful. I hate this. Like, get a different Foley artist or whatever.
You catch like the exact thing repeating too.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yes,
sometimes
it's like,
ah.
They're not even having that much fun. Like, I don't see anything to laugh about, but regardless. So we have some more dialogue. Kaylin, Carter, and like one O'Neill at the end.
I'll be Daniel. And
oh yeah, there's a Daniel too.
Carter.
I mean, I can be Kaylin.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so Kaylin. Colonel O'Neill, this is my son, Toman. I am teaching him. All of the past Uroni children will now learn, in the old-fashioned way, as you might say. He will know all that you have done for Orban.
He takes out a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I drew this for you to express my gratitude.
He hands the paper to O'Neill. It's a picture of a stick figure with blonde hair.
Isn't that
me? And Dan says, Kaylin, when did all this start? Kaylin says, last night, after Marin's Avarium.
She must have known this would happen once her nanites were transferred.
This is what she learned. So then Teal'c bends down and he has this really cute moment with Toman, and Toman like touches his forehead tattoo and like he smiles at him in curiosity. And then O'Neill finds Marin and, you know, she continues to draw. She's drawing on the wall with her crayons that he gave her. And we have this great ending dialogue. He says, hi, Marin, but she doesn't respond or recognize him. He's like, all right, I guess we'll have to get to know one another all over again. And he starts to draw, and Marin scribbles out whatever he drew, and he's like, you're right. What was I thinking? You ever seen a dog? Dogs are my favorite people. Some have tails, some don't. I like that. Like, and this is fading out. Like, the conversation is fading out. Like, we're zooming out, fade out. Good ending.
Yeah, that's a proper.
I liked how this ended.
You know,
because even though they're still using these nanites, they're deciding to take a more active role. These children who they formerly kind of discarded, and like they're like, okay, they're done now. We don't need them anymore. But they're like, okay, we're going to teach them the old-fashioned way. And I forget what Toman was doing. He was doing something, like he was playing a game or something. Like he was a lot more active than he was when they had previously seen him, like in his little
Mm-hmm.
room. So comments and discussion. First
I love
thing,
your first point.
this was just random thoughts that I had. The kids wear these weird fucking hats that look like they're braided, or like these old-fashioned like Ebenezer Scrooge nighttime caps, like that they wear. Like it's weird. It was weird. Again, the child actors were great. I already told you like how I feel about the child actor for Cassie. So this was something that annoyed me, and it's the way that they infantilized the children. I remember when they were doing the checkup with Dr. Frazier, and they were like, "You're being very brave, Marin. It's almost over." And it's like, I don't know why, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And maybe they did that to establish like they're treating them like a child, maybe a little too much so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's very clear that she wasn't bothered by this. She wasn't afraid to begin with. She understood the necessity to do the exam, but I didn't like the way that it kind of felt like they're speaking down to the kid sometimes.
I
don't like
feel, yeah, so just being a parent and just, there are people who just have two modes. They have child and adult speak. They don't have in between, or they have like, you're a teenager and I'm annoyed by you. And there's this space where they don't realize like children have autonomy, or they have thoughts and they have value and they have control. I would have liked it like if you were to do that all over again, like that scene could be more of a like, is there anything that's concerning you? Do you have any fears about what's going on right now? How do you feel? Like those types of things, and be like, we appreciate your bravery, or like we appreciate you being this or that, instead of the like patronizing, like you're being so brave.
Yeah. So
Because that wasn't scary to her, but like being brave would have been drawing the stick figure. That's brave. That's way more brave for her.
Yeah. And like as I don't have a kid, so like I can't speak, but I'm sure like you have conversations with Ryder that it's like you're just speaking to her like a person. Like you're not hello little children, oh you're being so brave right now. Like you don't talk to her like that, you know? It's just so bizarre that you're right. It's like I'm talking to a grown up and now I'm talking to a little child. Hello little child. Like
I swing hard the other way as somebody without a kid. I talk to all children, like 3-year-olds, even like they're adults.
Yeah, I think I lean more towards that
like,
too.
But they tend to gravitate towards me, and maybe that's a reason why, because I'm just talking to them like they're human beings, they're adults. Like
exactly, because you're not taking away their voice, and I think children get very frustrated when they don't have a voice, and they typically lose their voice because adults are taking out their shortcomings on that child. It's a power play. It's 100% a power play. You take away a child's voice and you take control over their situation, and that doesn't feel good. But when a child is heard, so that's why. That's why they love you.
Yeah. I'm like, children, okay. Like,
heaven forbid we listen to our children.
I know, right?
Shocker.
So here's a question. Do you think what the Urbanians do is unethical? Could some of our current day teaching methods be seen as unethical?
It's a great question.
Think I've been thinking about I read ahead and I've been thinking about that question. And I think the most unethical thing in the entire situation is how they were convinced that they could not do anything more for those children after the fact. That's the part that feels very unethical to me. Like, and that's like a discovery that they have in this episode is very similar to all sorts of human rights realizations and discoveries that we've had like throughout history, you know? Oh, this person has a learning disability. They'll never be able to do anything this person technically has a learning disability, but look, they can be a functioning member of society. You know, it's that similar sort of trajectory. So them just kind of discounting altogether, that to me feels like the most unethical part of it.
I think go ahead.
I think I'm more conflicted because I don't think they did it out of a place of like malice or contempt or like othering, because in our history it was like a sense of othering, like
Mhm.
if they don't belong in our society, like put them away so like I don't have to look at them, like they don't belong here, they're never going to fit in, like they are on the outskirts of our society, versus like they honor these children and they just think like, well, this is how it is and we don't know of a better way. I think it was just that ignorance of, we don't know how to, like they can't learn, we can't give them any nanites, and they kind of forgot how to learn. So I think it's unethical, but not in an intentional way. They weren't doing it in an intentional or malicious
Yeah.
or kind of hateful way.
But I think there are plenty moments in human history where people maybe when those like that othering got started, it was more
Mhm.
intentional, but it got so ingrained into society that it was probably unintentional on a lot of people's parts. They like literally didn't realize like there are people out there that really think that, you know, especially back in the day, that thought like because you were a different race, you had your different intelligence and shit. Like,
Yeah.
and
Well, it's
that's
just
not like, you know, it's because it was just like accepted that way for so long that people just continued that thought process. And it's like, and still, it's still like, it's unethical. It's acceptable that they had no idea, you
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
it would have
I
been
think
awful
it's
if they realized and then kept it the same way, you
well,
know, like,
exactly, and that's where I think like there's so many parallels to so many different systemic things of othering, but it is that like once you have that moment of enlightenment, it is what you do then that you're on the hook and you are liable for what has happened or not happened. So the minute you become aware, yeah, it's what you do.
yeah.
So like I think my thoughts are, to answer the questions there, is like of course in and of itself is a very unethical thing. Do I think they are unethical as individuals? Not up until the point that they knew different or they knew better, right? Like
Yeah.
I think that's I don't hold blame on them. I think they were very aware. They didn't try to hide it. They were very like, why is this wrong? This
Yeah,
isn't
they didn't
wrong.
feel ashamed of it. They
No.
didn't think, because they didn't think it was wrong.
No, and I think the concept of learning and then going through that process, and again, not being hostile, but being very open minded, very conversational, very okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think though that the one thing I don't appreciate is they don't give the children their own autonomy on
Mhm.
being chosen to do those things. I understand it's this whole at infancy and like that's whatever story arc that is. The part I do find unethical is that the children did not have a say
I think
in what they're
that's,
doing.
yeah, I agree. I think that's the more unethical because of the situation. They have to do it when they're infants or it's not going to work. But then,
Mm-hmm.
like, how is it chosen? Is there like a random lottery or like certain days of the year that children are born? It's like you're automatically signed up for this. Like, how does that work?
Maybe their brains are a certain way to allow the,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's a genetic thing.
Yeah. We have a really good comment
Mm-hmm.
from Nalavi. Speaking from a disabled person is a big problem, and that is literally what my father did. My son is well cared for, he's fine, but they can't even know because they can't even communicate.
What the
Hmm.
father did. I don't think it
Oh,
was
yeah.
my father. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the thing
Yeah.
is like once they learned by absorbing Marin's nanites, then they made changes. So they did
think-
learn, and
But I literally think that's just a sped up version of like our history on things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that most, this is an extreme example, right? But like, I don't think that most slave owners, for example, back in the day, in the times, thought that there was anything wrong with owning slaves.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
They were not ashamed of the fact that they owned slaves, you know, until people were like, hey, these are people. And then like that progress started happening. But like, it's that sort of thing. And it's not an excuse that that they weren't ashamed, you know, like it's people just, society had to like move forward, and realize
Yeah.
that we're being terrible to each other, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and humanize people. Like, no, these are human beings, you know? So,
Yeah. And when
Hmm.
things are like a certain way for a long enough time, people who are born into a certain status kind of just accept that status quo and they're like, well, that's just how it is. That's just the way it's
especially
been.
when it's comfortable for you, you know, like you're
Right.
not the one suffering.
Especially. Correct. Yeah. And it's not true for everyone because like you have people make the excuse, well, they were born in a different era, like make excuses for shitty racist people or whatever, like homophobic people. They were born in a different era. They don't know any better. We've talked about this before, but like my uncle, he's like 60 some years old. He is gay. So like to be an older gay, like he was really going like in the 80s and 90s, like that was a rough time for the LGBTQ community. My grandfather, who recently passed away, he was 93, so he was born in 1929, had zero problem with my uncle being gay. So it's not the time frame people are born in, because a lot of people in that time frame would like disown their son, or they would like do some weird conversion therapy bullshit. But not my grandfather, and he is a white man living in like the mountains of Pennsylvania. You know, he wasn't in like some very liberal town or city, you know, so you can't really use that excuse for people. That's just how things are, and you know, they were born in a different time.
Yeah.
The last thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say normally I would comment on it, but that's a touchy subject for me right now. So
Yeah.
The
last thing that I have is that the Euron children, especially Marin in this example, have a lot of characteristics that children with autism have, which I thought was very interesting. And these bullet points are from like WebMD of characteristics that autistic children have. So not seeming to understand what others are thinking or feeling. She couldn't understand Sam's way of thinking, or like why she wanted to do things a certain way. She was like, this is the way that I know how to do it. This is the only way. I can't understand why you want to do it another way. Liking a strict daily routine and getting very upset if it changes. So she was getting frustrated when she couldn't complete a task, like finish the drawing of the reactor. Also cool. Now Levi had the same, she's like, I'm autistic and had the same thought. So I'm glad that we're on the same page with that. That's cool. Having very keen interest in certain subjects or activities. So all of these Urani children are specialists in their specific area of study. That is their special interest. That is all they think about most of the time. Like that is their thing. Finding it hard to make friends or preferring to be on their own. You don't really see these children interacting or having friends or doing anything but their solitary studies or anything related to learning. So Tommen, when he was talking to Teal'c, it was for the purpose of learning his or developing his special interests and taking things very literally. For example, they may not understand phrases like break a leg. So this is Marin doing the painting. She was taking everything literally. The flower was not red. It was purple. It has to be purple. Like, so I thought it was very interesting, and I don't know if that was intentional at all, but I can very much see these parallels of.
Yeah, but I feel like so at that time, autism wasn't as outwardly supported, or like it was very marginalized. I'm trying to remember at that time. So I think the correlations are maybe unintentional, but there's pieces of it that do. But I like the representation that what you're saying there is like different doesn't mean or whatever you wrote on it. I had to put it but
different is not wrong.
No, because it's such a beautiful way that to see how minds work, so many different patterns and putting it all together. Yeah, I guess I get mindful of like whether they intended to or not, like just not being disrespectful to those like that do have who are on spectrum. And it is such a varying spectrum of like how it presents, but that it is like, yeah, savant syndrome and having those difficulties. And a lot of the times I would say the difference though is that they are like, that's just like their function of society because they don't have a desire to be different. Whereas like where like the antisocialness comes from is just more of like not understanding social cues, so it's easier to like revert than try to continue to put yourself out there and get really confused. So it's easier to just sometimes internalize. I would love it if there are people who are open to having like conversation that are on spectrum to like have any sort of input on that, because I don't feel confident to like give a total narrative on it, but I would be really curious if anyone else makes that connection.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think a lot of what we grab from these episodes are intentional. I don't think a
No.
lot of it is, but I think a lot of it comes from maybe somebody who was coming up with that episode knew a kid or something, you know, like there's these unconscious things that happen, but that also means they don't always get it like right or like perfectly right, or, you know, like, because it's just this kind of like, oh, this fleeting thing in their mind. They're like, let me make the kid like this because for some reason I think they should be, you know.
Yeah.
It's not that it's technically was intentional, but they don't realize, like their brain technically made that connection, but they don't realize it. I think that happens a lot, I think, in film and television anyway. It wasn't like it was pointedly intentional, but it's a thing anyway. And that's why people pick up on things. And like the creators of the things are like, I didn't even catch that. Like, I didn't even think about that, you know?
Yeah. And then
That's
years later,
interesting.
when we have more context and know what things are and have a better understanding, we can be like, oh, they're on the spectrum. Like, that's very much how they're portrayed.
Yeah.
So that's all I got for you guys. Anything
I
else?
love it. No, I think it's great. Oh,
good
so I
for
do want to
me.
talk about like why I feel like I like that episode really quickly, and then we can close
Yes.
it out. Because I think in thinking about it, I don't rewatch it a lot, but I think I might. The autonomy, I think the listening to the youth, like listening to children, I think is the part that I find really important. That is why I liked it, is that it did present a different way of giving them the autonomy of choice, giving them that, whether we agreed with it or not, it's their life, it's their thing, and they made these choices. It's not great, but I think I liked, in a small way, that conversation being had. It wasn't great in representation, but I think that's the part that I'm like,
I took their agreement to do the thing completely differently from you. I took
like,
it as they were conditioned from birth that this was important.
and that's where like it's problematic, because like it is conditioned from birth, and it is that, and that's where I'm like, I don't love that. That's why it's not perfect. Like, it's not great, but we're trying. Like, it's yeah, it's a in the right direction. Very smally.
Having the reference of that Star Trek episode, like I feel like I'm a lot kinder towards this episode of Stargate, because like
Was that
like okay, yeah,
Christina, you
like,
gotta just like pop in that one episode. It's a standalone. You can watch it.
I
it's
will.
wild.
You really don't have to know anything about most of the like regular cast members probably to watch that episode. It's that self-contained.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I can do it.
So I feel like being a little kinder towards this scenario, because it's like, well, it could have definitely been way worse. And I like that, you know, they did eventually learn, because of Marin and because of what Jack taught her, how to make life better for these children. So they contributed and they made that sacrifice, but we're not just going to like hide them away anymore. We want to have them live enriched lives. But yeah, there's a lot, and it, you know, Earth looks at that, or we would look at that as like, you know, unfair and inhumane treatment. But then you kind of wonder, like, okay, what are things that we do, or methods that we teach our children that maybe we'll look back on 100 years from now and be like, that was barbaric. I can't believe we did that.
guaranteed. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Awesome. It was a good combo about it. I like
that's
that.
all.
That's all.
Oh,
Let's see it. Oh, who's closing it?
I don't know, but you know what we're talking about next week? I already watched it. Point of View.
Oh my god.
Love it.
Oh my god. The wig.
The wig.
The wig.
That's like
Whoa.
I know Jay Akavo like reprised his role as Kowalski, but that wig is the
That
true
wig
guest
is
star.
No. So, okay, I don't think it's my turn.
I think I
don't
did it
know.
last time, so I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
God,
it's
it
Sarah.
Sarah.
I think because I think I closed it as myself last time or something.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe Sarah.
All right, I'm gonna close it as Jack trying to convince that it's fun or something. Like, all right, we're gonna close the iris. We're gonna have fun. It doesn't have to be perfect. Close the iris. Done.